Hi, I'm Samurai Smack, and this is another Rambling Ronin Rainfall whatever. And this topic came to mind because I was just thinking about games, board games, tabletop RPGs, video games, and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about this. I don't know, because I guess it's because I want to create a video game and I want it to be a certain way. So I'm thinking about all these gameplay systems and ideas and combat systems and what would best fit my game and what would truly, create the vision that I have for my game. So I was thinking about it, and I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2, and it kind of came to mind. When I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2, I was kind of making some mental references and some mental notes and comparisons to another RPG or action RPG game that I played called Dragon's Dogma. And I was thinking, because if I were to make an action RPG, the way I would want to make it would be an open world action RPG where the combat would be something similar to like Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically, but like you could climb on monsters and things like Shadow of the Colossus. And I was thinking about Dragon's Dogma because Dragon's Dogma has some of the things that I like and some of the things that I want in the perfect game, but other things that I don't really care for. Like how in Dragon's Dogma I don't like the damage scaling or the fact that it doesn't have a lock-on system. When you climb onto monsters, it's not like you're climbing onto giant colossi in Shadow of the Colossus. It's definitely like a different feel. It's a different kind of thing. And how the combat system after a while in the enemy encounters and things like that become uninteresting and kind of unengaging after a while. Like you don't engage with them. And then I started thinking about how other combat systems work in combat systems that, regardless if I'm fighting against the same enemies over and over again, I'm still constantly engaged with them. And so I started thinking about Platinum games, and I started thinking about old Capcom games, or older Capcom games, and games like Devil May Cry, and games like Bayonetta, and Wonderful 101, and things like that. Beat-em-ups, action games, hack and slashes, spectacle fighting hack and slash games. So I started thinking about those in their combat system, and then I started making more comparisons, and I started doing a couple of things. And a lot of the reason why I'm thinking about combat systems, and because one of the things is combat is very important to me. I think of combat and I enjoy it a lot. And then when I look back at Kingdom Hearts 2's combat, and I missed, like, the first time playing it through, I used, like, the basic X combos. I did X in the air and X on the ground, and it looks really flashy. I only took skills and modified things that made my combos look even flashier, but I didn't ever think about the deeper combat system underneath it. I never messed around with magics or summons or limits or even drive forms other than Valor, because Valor had dual keyblades and it looked really cool to hit people with keyblades. But I never thought of like how the magic system works and how the combat system works fully. I didn't get a full understanding of it until later. And that was after seeing people like My Dax and Bloody Biscuits who play and speedrun Kingdom Hearts and talk about Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically and how its combat system works and its battle system. And BizKit, I almost forgot him, and how they talked about the combat system and how they speedrun it and how they understand the game and how it fully functions and works. And it made me think, like, a combat system like Kingdom Hearts is definitely something I want for an open world action RPG because of how it because of how you level up, but like leveling up your stats is not what matters when you're playing an action hack and slash game. What matters when you're playing a action RPG or a hack and slash game is getting new moves and abilities to enhance your combos. And Kingdom Hearts 2 does the best job of integrating all of their different systems, drives, limits, summons, spells, all into perfecting or increasing your combos. So because they have such a focus on combos and the abilities and things that you can do with combos, there's so much variety and there's so much fun and depth to be had with that. And that's what I was thinking about, and that's what I kind of wanted. Because in Dragon's Dogma, there's like block, there's hit, there's use your special moves, and maybe shoot. Like if you have arrows and stuff, there's shooting. But there's not like a really deep combat system to it. Unlike some reviewers who reviewed Dragon's Dogma, saying Angry Joe, where they said it was like a mixture of Dragon's Dogma, or a mixture of Devil May Cry. They were more talking about how special the attacks looked, or how kind of fun it looked, I guess. Like how the attacks are in terms of how they look and how they feel. Not necessarily in terms of being able to do combos and to be able to have that depth that Devil May Cry, the whole entire series, provides, especially 4. And so, if I was going to make a game that's an action RPG, I had to think about combat systems a lot. And from playing even more recent hack and slash action RPG games like Nier Automata, I realized something very important. That when you mix RPGs and when you mix hack and slashes together, they don't play well. Because RPGs have stats, and stats in any kind of game are supposed to be there to simulate your growth as a character and thus your growth as a player. When in all reality, stat growth only allows growth of a character. It's supposed to demonstrate that, oh yeah, the character is getting stronger throughout the narrative, it's getting stronger throughout the game, and so that you're able to fight tougher monsters that have more health or more defense and stuff, and you're able to tear through that and do more damage to them. However, that doesn't really come into play as your skill level as a player. Like you're just as skilled in a turn-based RPG from the start of the game as you are to the end of the game. You might have more knowledge, but I wouldn't say you're more skillful. And even on repeat playthroughs, it's all about manipulating stats. Turn-based RPGs, and nothing against them, and the same thing goes with action RPGs, and nothing against them, it devolves into a stat-based system. It devolves into manipulating stats to get the best results. And some turn-based RPGs, they use this, and they're able to make really fun, interesting, and engaging battle systems. And then there's others that are just purely stat manipulation. There's some games where it's like, okay, you're learning about each and every enemy, you're learning about their weaknesses and what moves are more effective to use on them, and what builds you should be creating and forging for your characters so that they can mow through or tear through these enemies the most effective way possible, because you're trying to beat the game and you're trying to use the stats to the best of your abilities, and you're trying to give yourself the best options and the most optimal way of playing the game. But that doesn't correlate to action games, because action games is a skill-based thing. It's reactionary. It's learning the boss fights, learning their attack patterns, their moves, what they get stunned by, what weapons are best to juggle them with, like all their different moves, like what's the ins and outs of this boss, so you can best maneuver around the boss, attack the boss, juggle and combo the boss, and react to the boss when it attacks you. And so these two ideas oppose each other. And this is why I see people like Vash TSP who don't really like RPGs in their action games. They like them to be separate because the stats in one deflate the combos or the potential in another. Being able to fully immerse yourself in an action RPG, or in not an action RPG, but in an action game, you have to pay attention to all your engagements, all your fights. You pay attention to what you're doing, and you win based off your skill level, based off of you understanding how the enemies attack, move, and operate, and so you can best exploit that with your own move set, with your own combo set. This is different than just manipulating stats to make yourself the best result. Games like Disgaea and strategy RPGs like that, and Fire Emblem and stuff, are all about stat growth and character abilities and evolutions of those characters to best manipulate stats to win. But the actual skill that comes from the player in learning the attack patterns of the enemies, dodging them, maneuvering around them, not getting hit by them, like, and timing, all of it, it's not there, and it's not the focus of it. So when you integrate these two ideals, they do clash with each other greatly. And I feel like I already kind of said that, but the idea is still true. So how do you make an action RPG? And then I go back to Kingdom Hearts and how I very much love how Kingdom Hearts does its elements. Because the way Kingdom Hearts scales its damage, the way Kingdom Hearts gives you abilities and levels you up, the way Kingdom Hearts even presents its combat system is so attuned to action game needs and sympathies that it feels at times Kingdom Hearts wants to be more of an action game than it does an RPG. And the way Kingdom Hearts is able to both establish itself as a strong action game with presenting interesting, fun, engaging combat that has a lot of variety and enemies that definitely provide for that variety, and then having the stat abilities and the growth of an RPG and integrating that with combat is amazing. I personally think that Kingdom Hearts has the best idea of what makes a epic and awesome and definitive version of an action RPG and an action game and an RPG. So that even gives more credence to making my game a lot like Kingdom Hearts and having its battle system. But the thing is, Kingdom Hearts does its damage scaling by world. So there's a minimum amount of damage that you can do in each world. You can be level 1, but you're automatically going to do this amount of damage. Because, and the reason for this is because they don't want fights to take forever. They want to still keep you engaged as a player, but they don't want fights to take forever. They don't want you to feel like you're not getting anywhere, and so that you need to grind and kill every single enemy you come across. Even though if you do engage in every single fight that you come across, you will be properly leveled for each world you go to. But the aspect of it, the idea is, because they automatically scale the damage to such a base level, they can create encounters without fearing that you're going to be unprepared for it. Because no matter what level you are, you're going to automatically be doing a base amount of damage to the enemy. Versus something like Dragon's Dogma, where it has a very weird damage scaling, where if your attack doesn't go over their defense, you're automatically going to scale to doing like 1 damage, or like something equivalent to that. So when you're fighting monsters that are in like the expansion pack, and your gear isn't up to snuff, all your attacks are going to be doing chip damage, and fights are going to last forever. So Kingdom Hearts benefits in the fact that their damage scaling allows each engagement to be planned out cleverly, with no fear of the player not being able to approach it. So you never have the feeling that you need to grind for the fight. However, because Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically, doesn't explain its combat system fully, there are aspects, there's times where if you're unfamiliar with how the combat system fully works, you're gonna feel like you need to grind and buy a bunch of items to succeed on bosses. A lot of the bosses that I fought when I first played Kingdom Hearts 2, I couldn't defeat, especially in the end game. Roxas, Data Organization Roxas, I couldn't beat. So I decided to stock up on a bunch of healing potions and fight him, not knowing about the plethora of options I had in terms of my drive forms, in terms of my limit abilities. But when you're fighting Roxas, you don't really have many limits other than like your drive limits. But the ideas, the concept of fighting Roxas became something that I need to grind for. I need to get to higher levels and buy a bunch of potions in order for me to defeat this guy. When it could have simply been, I just learned the fight like it's an action game, dodged his moves, and bait out his attacks, and then countered him and punished him, like other action games. But because Kingdom Hearts 2 doesn't explain all the options that you have and how its battle system fully works, I just kind of played in this really infantile, like, understanding of the game where I just mash X to win. And I feel like a lot of reviewers, when they first played Kingdom Hearts 2 and complained about how easy it is and how to mash X gameplay, they didn't fully understand the combat system, the depth of it either. They didn't understand it, and therefore they criticized the game unfairly because they didn't take the time to understand the gameplay. But in the same respect, Kingdom Hearts didn't take the time to explain its gameplay. So, I want to create a game, an action RPG, that has Kingdom Hearts 2's battle system that's actually well explained, but is also oriented to customization. So, I was thinking to myself, well, in RPGs, one of the things I love the most is customizing my character to what I want to be specifically. But if I don't have stats, how can I customize my character? How can I build a character that I specifically want to? Because if stats are also supposed to be representative of the character's abilities, taking out stats, which will help the combat system, but prevent me from being able to create my character. Like, an action game specifically has characters, like Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance, where characters have certain move kits. They have systems, move kits, and abilities that they can do as characters, because they're well-built characters. But if I can't create my character, if I can't make my character exactly what I want to be, if there's no classes for my character to pick, if it's just an action game, then I might as well just make an action game. But that's not what I want to make. Like I said, I want to make an action RPG. So I'm coming to the understanding that if I'm going to make an action RPG, I need to focus more on the action and less on the RPG. And I can't make an action game purely because I want to have the customization that an RPG allows you and gives you. So when thinking about this, I came to the conclusion that I should do my combat system a lot like Kingdom Hearts and Devil May Cry 3. You see, Devil May Cry 3 allows for so much variety and customization that it might as well be new characters you're playing as. Because with all the different styles you can play with all the different weapons they have and all their movesets, and all the abilities that you can buy for those weapons, you start to get a plethora of moves that can easily fit for any character that you create. And so then I started thinking even more. If I were to create classes, I should do it like Kingdom Hearts, where each class, depending on how many enemies you kill, gives you a level up. But based on what you're going for, like in Kingdom Hearts, if you select either the sword, the shield, or the wand, you get different abilities. So in Kingdom Hearts, the more you level up, especially in Kingdom Hearts 2, you get different abilities. But depending on what path you take, whether it's a more magical route or whether it's a more physical route, you get different abilities at different times. So if I were to make classes, how would I do this? Well, I guess that if I chose something like maybe some kind of fighter class, like a sword and shield kind of guy, I would give him abilities, something kind of like Dragon's Dogma, instead of something that you just buy, and the more you use that class, the more abilities you unlock, so then you can buy them. It would be, the more I use this class, the more abilities I get access to. However, for people who want to build specific builds for their character, they can pick and choose, like in Kingdom Hearts with the AP system. So the more AP you get, the more moves you can choose from. Your move list, you get more abilities that you can choose. Your ability points grow, essentially. And each ability costs a certain amount. So I can fully create and customize my character because I just get a bunch of moves, but that doesn't necessarily mean I use them or equip those moves. That's what makes Kingdom Hearts 2's battle system really, really interesting and great for customization, and it's also similar to Devil May Cry 3's customization, because you're getting abilities and items, but you're not necessarily using them for your character. You're equipping them if you choose to. So, the way I was thinking about this is, in something like Dungeons and Dragons, you level up and you take archetypes or feats, and you level up and you get certain moves and abilities that go for different archetypes and feats. But you have like a skill tree. It's a path that you go up. It's not something that you can just get all of it. You can only get certain moves in a certain skill tree to apply to certain things. So you're truly forging an individual rather than an everyman. And this is one of the biggest criticisms of games like Skyrim, where you can be all of it. You can be anything you want to be and all of that at the same time, where that kind of takes away from the replay value of Skyrim itself. So if I wanted to create characters and have my characters be exactly how I want them to be, then I would just get moves, but whatever moves and abilities that I get, I choose to equip or put on those characters, like in Kingdom Hearts 2. The thing is unlike Kingdom Hearts 2, I have to take away strength. I have to take away magic, strength, constitution, like all these things that make up RPG stats, and place it into some other place to make it some other kind of way. So if instead of leveling up as a mage class and just getting more magic abilities and more wisdom and arbitrary stuff, instead I get access to abilities that make using magic cost less. So then I can still use magic. It still has a cost, but it costs less. And it costs less because I'm a magic class and I'm specifically creating and building myself up to allow myself to cast as many spells as possible. And I can forge this in an action game context because I can make it so that spells are a lot cheaper and have little cost to use, so then I can focus on doing a bunch of magic combos and making myself the best kind of magic user that I possibly want to be. Then I started thinking about, okay, well, if I'm going to do something with magic and if I got this combat system figured out, how do I want to approach fighting monsters? Well, of course, fighting ground monsters is simple enough, but how do I want to fight bigger monsters? Do I just want the characters to whack at their toes? No, I want it to be like how I said earlier, Shadow of the Colossus, or Eco, or not Eco, but Shadow of the Colossus, or Dragon's Dogma. Less like Dragon's Dogma and more like Shadow of the Colossus because I like the weight and the feel of Shadow of the Colossus better. So then I started thinking even more. How do I integrate action game combat with climbing giant monsters? Because unlike something like God of War, where I just make it into a giant spectacle, I just make it into, you press X, and then you press A, and then you do this, you do a quick time event to scale these monsters, but you're not actually scaling them. I make it into an event. So if I make it into some kind of actual boss that I'm fighting, or actual monster, how do I scale that with the weapons that I have, and the combat that I have, and all that? Well, I guess I would just have to design the monsters specifically so that I can climb on them, and that I can attack them, and I can kill them, like I would in Shadow of the Colossus, but also having the same kind of gameplay as some kind of action game. Every time I think about doing something like that, I think about all the different combat systems that Devil May Cry provides. So in Devil May Cry, there's an ability that you can get called Table Hopper, I believe. You jump on an enemy's head and you bounce off, and then it allows you to have more airtime. Well, how do I focus that, and how do I use that so I can apply that to monsters? Well, then I started thinking even more, and I'm like, maybe I should introduce a parkour system. Not only would that improve the mobility of the whole entire game itself in moving around in the movement kit that I have, but it would also help with combat. Because if I had more movement options to attack enemies, movement and momentum could be a factor into fighting enemies as well. Not necessarily like the faster you move, the more damage you do, but like the faster you move, or not the faster you move, or where you move, or how you move, can get you to certain enemies in certain locations. So then I started thinking about that, and then I looked at games that are coming out, like Extinction, I think it's called, or yeah, I think it's called Extinction or Execution or something. It's basically about this parkouring Roman-looking guy who kills a bunch of trolls who are trying to like kill all of humanity, and he's parkouring everywhere, and he's like fighting enemies and juggling them in the air, kind of like it's Devil May Cry. And then I was thinking, I'm like, well, if I could integrate a combat system like that and mix it with Shadow of the Colossus, where you're actually scaling a monster, but you can also run along them and parkour them, I would make them surface-based monsters. So the surface-based kind of monsters are like monsters that are like a certain... They have, you know, all these... They have places where you can run on them, and places where you can climb on them and jump and all this stuff around them. And it's not just like, I grab onto your leg, I scale you, and then I hit you in the head a couple of times. It's actually like I'm running on an actual thing. I'm running on an actual creature, like in Shadow of the Colossus. So I figured that out, and I'm like, this sounds amazing. How do I integrate all of these options, but still have a combat system that is functional, and that allows for plenty of customization? Because the thing is in an RPG, there's a plethora of weapons. Like you already can see in Dark Souls that there's so many weapons to choose from. But the thing is, in Dark Souls, because their combat's pretty simple, like you have a light attack, a heavy attack, and variations of them, like running heavy, jumping heavy, and then like running heavy, or running light, jumping light, things like that. The combat can be pretty simple. The attacks can be pretty simple. The basic moves, the basic 3-hit combos can be very simple for each weapon. So that would take a lot of time and effort into making every single weapon have a different combat, or have a different move set. But then I looked at games like Nier Automata, and they kind of did something similar to that. So I would basically have to do this. Every weapon would have to have a certain kind of class. So you're not going to pick up a dagger and it just plays completely different than another dagger that has like maybe some dragons on it, right? It's going to play functionally the same, but it's going to have different effects to it. Because I don't want this to be like focusing on stats, I don't want weapons to devolve into that. So, well, actually, then if you do pick up a dagger, that has some dragons on it, it would have to have a different moveset. It'd have to act like picking up a different weapon in Devil May Cry. Each and every weapon would have a unique moveset. So it'd kind of be like Bayonetta, where every single weapon you get has a completely different moveset. Even if it's similar weapons. Like, even if you have a long sword and then you have like a katana, they play differently. They have different moves and attacks. Even though they might be similar weapons, they both are long swords, but they have to play and feel different from each other. This is a lot to think about. My point is that integrating the stats in an action RPG setting is detrimental to the action elements. And that if you're going to create an action RPG, you should focus on enhancing the personal abilities and move kits of the character, the player character, while also still allowing for the actual player to get better. Getting more abilities and buying more abilities in Devil May Cry is great. There's nothing really wrong with that. People like that. But if you focus that and you do something like Kingdom Hearts, and instead of things you purchase by killing enemies, it's moves that you get through killing enemies. Like, it takes out a step, essentially. Like, instead of killing monsters and demons to get red orbs so then you can go back and buy abilities, you just get abilities naturally through using a weapon. Oh, that's how I can do it. If there's going to be weapon-specific moves and attacks, I can base that on how long have you used this weapon. So there's attacks and moves and abilities that you get as a character that you get, but the weapons, the abilities that weapons get are separate. So, like in Kingdom Hearts, they have abilities that you can equip, like dodge roll and recover and aerial recovery and glide and double jump and things like that. So you have that in Kingdom Hearts. Those are like abilities and movement kits like quick run or even freaking block. Things like that, or yeah, the block. There's moves like that, but those are to your character, to the actual character you play as. All the other moves that you get are separate. Combo modifiers and extensions are also things that you get. They're not tied to weapons. Combo modifiers and abilities that you get, like dodge roll, aerial recovery, quick run, and things like that, are all based on your own, like based on the character you get. So, or not the character you get, but like those are things that every character gets regardless of what class you are. But then you start getting class specific weapons or class specific abilities that you can use with any weapon you get. However, then weapons have their own abilities that you can use and that you can map on your, like, a quick select or whatever. Like how in Dragon's Dogma you purchase certain moves that you can use and you can quickly use them. Like you don't quickly use them. It's the only way you access them. It's like special attacks that use up your stamina. Like for instance, you have, I think it was like Crescent Moon Slash, that you use, or not Crescent Moon Slash, it was like, maybe it was Crescent Moon Slash. It was basically a move that you spin around in a circle and you swing your sword. Or there was like 100 kisses that evolved into 1,000 kisses. Oh, I got it. So, in Kingdom Hearts 2, the more abilities you use, like, if you use Magnet, yeah, it goes into Magnet, and then Magneta, and Magnara, something. Basically, it levels up the more you use it. So that could be the same way with spells. The more spells you use, or if you use one spell a lot, that levels up. So it's based on usage. So that can still be like an RPG thing, because instead of you using, like, instead of you getting stats so then you can turn from fire to Firaga, you just use fire a bunch and then you level it up to 5 raga. And so then that also plays into combat, because the more moves you use, and the variety of moves you use, and you using a bunch of moves, they all level up, and they all increase in damage. Of course, this isn't based off of your strength. It's just based on how many times you use the move. So, like, say there was like a dodge slash, right? It was like I slashed and I dodged out of the way, and it was also a dodge offset. So I was like doing a combo, but then an enemy was about to hit me in the face, and then I do a dodge slash. I hit the enemy, I back up, and I get away from his dodge, and I hit him. But like, say I just got the ability, so I dodge out of the way of his attack, and I do some damage to him. However, it doesn't like stagger him or anything. There's no stun to it. But the more I use that dodge slash, it automatically levels up alongside my abilities and me growing as a player, so my growth abilities. And then the dodge slash not only becomes stronger and does more damage, but it also stuns more enemies. So I end up having a dodge slash where if an enemy tries to punch me, I can offset my combo that I'm doing, dodge out of the way, hit him with that dodge slash, stun him, and then continue doing a combo on him. So this can work with both physical attacks and magical attacks. So yeah, I think I got it. I wonder how mounts work. Anyway, this has been the Rambling Rainfall Ronin, talking about combat systems. I'm probably going to make a more in-depth video about action RPGs and how they relate to action games and RPGs and damage scaling, and why stats in RPGs aren't such a stats in action games aren't really a great thing. But I'll have to write that video, and that will be a long time coming, but just be prepared for that video in later on. Anyway, this has just been another rambling episode. See ya.